Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Coming Up Milhouse. And we are here today to discuss season 3, episode 7. It is called Lisa's Pony. So if you'd like to go give that a watch before you watch our commentary, feel free to do so. So, George, do you want to give a synopsis on what the episode was about?
Absolutely. So this is, as the title suggests, a Lisa-heavy episode. And what happens is Homer disappoints Lisa, and she isn't very happy with him at the beginning of the episode. So Homer wants to make it up to her, and he decides the best way to do that is to do something that Lisa has always wanted, and that is to buy her very own pony. But Homer finds out that buying a pony isn't all that it's cracked up to be because it's very expensive. And so in order to try to figure out a way to pay for it, he starts doing some odd jobs and things of that nature, and it doesn't go very well for him. And that is the basic idea behind the episode. Also, there is no discerning subplot in this one like there have been in some other episodes. So that is the main focus of the episode, is Homer trying to buy Lisa and maintain this pony expense, and funny things ensue from that. So that's what we got. What about lines? You want to give me your first favorite line, Gail?
Sure. So my first favorite line, Willie, when they are at the beginning of the episode, they're watching the talent show of the elementary school kids, and he says, so he'd rather be watching the boilers than watch the kids' talent show, which sounds really boring, which means you know how great the talent show was.
Exactly. That's Willie. That was a funny one. He's always good for a good line.
Mm-hmm.
My first one was when Lisa's already mad at Homer, and Homer's trying to figure out, maybe he could have been a better dad. He puts in a tape of Lisa moments, and it's Lisa's first step. And the line is Marge is like, Homer, look, Lisa's taking her first step. And Homer's watching TV, and he says, are you taping it? I'll watch it later. And Lisa walks in front of the TV, and he's watching Fantasy Island. And there's like, the plane.
the plane. Right.
And so the fact that Homer's like, are you taping it? Yeah, I'll watch it later. That made me laugh. I thought that was funny.
Well, and then I also got the impression that this was his first viewing of that tape. So she's 8-ish now, and he's watching the tape,
right,
during the episode of Lisa's first steps, way after the fact. So
way after the fact.
Clearly,
exactly.
Great dad skills right there.
Exactly. All right. What about another favorite line?
What about my second favorite line? Okay, so when Homer goes to buy the pony, he is talking to Marge. Marge is completely against buying the pony, and they're having a argument. And he says, with today's gas prices, we can't afford not to buy a pony.
It's like he's trying to sell it, and that's the best he can come up with. Like, what's he gonna do? Ride the pony to work and and save gas?
Which we know he's not.
Right. That was a good one. I like that.
What about you?
So my second line, I gave that to Apu. So when Homer decides that he's going to get a second job to pay this bill, he goes to the Quickie Mart, and he finds out. First he starts to try to scam Apu with a lottery ticket, and Apu figures it out because it's not a very good scam. And Apu's kind of like so appalled. He's like, Mr. Homer, if you needed money, you should have at least jabbed a gun in my ribs. Or better yet, inquire about this help wanted sign. So that's how Homer ends up getting the job at the Quickie Mart. But Apu's like, you should have jabbed that gun in my ribs. I like that. Because all those jokes about the Quickie Mart and how dangerous it is and how it's always like getting robbed and you're getting shot at. It's like more dangerous than being a cop in the Simpsons world is working in the Quickie Mart. I think that's funny. So I had to throw that in.
Good. There were so many great lines in this episode. I mean, as the episode goes on, I jotted down quite a few, as I usually do. I usually jot down quite a few quotes, but those I'd say were my top two. Although No, they're not. I have to throw this one in there because it really cracks me up. So I just heard Milli Vanilli was arrested for impersonating a McNugget.
Johnny Carson. And then there's you hear Ed McMahon.
Some of you young kids are not going to catch that reference, but
Yeah.
when we were younger, Milli Vanilli was a group that was impersonating. Basically, they were lip syncing to songs that were number one songs in the late 80s, early 90s. So that one cracked me up.
Yeah, if you got to have been around in that time to get the joke,
Right.
but it was a funny joke. All right, what's your favorite scene?
I'm going to go with the pet store scene. And Homer is looking for a pony for Lisa. And so he goes basically to the mall pet store. And as he's walking into the store, the pet store owner says, "Ew, what's that smell? Oh, it's you." And then Homer wants to buy a pony. And so he asks, "Hey, do you sell ponies here?" And the pet store owner points to this dog in a cage and tries to pass that dog off as a horse. And then Homer looks at it, reads the sign, and then takes a couple beats to realize that it's not a pony. And he says, "Wait a minute, that's a dog." And the pet store owner says, "Oh, you're smarter than I gave you credit for." So that's my favorite scene.
I always like that the slick salesman stuff in this, and Homer's interactions with them are always usually funny, and that was a good example of that. So my favorite scene, I'm going to go with the scene where Lisa wakes up and the pony's in her bed. Like Homer did not give her any warning that this was happening, but I like it for a reason, because there are two references to movies in that scene. So Lisa wakes up, there's a horse head in her bed, and she screams, and it's a play on The Godfather. And then she gets excited realizing what it is, and then she rides it into their bedroom, and you hear in the background the music score to The Magnificent Seven. And it's like that, and she's all excited. And just because there were those two movie tie-ins, I liked it. So that was my scene.
Good.
Yeah. Godfather and Magnificent Seven. Why not? I like it. All right. So that brings us to winners and losers. Which one would you like to do first this time?
Let's go with your winner.
My winner. Okay. So I picked Mr. Burns.
Oh.
Yeah, and that is because Homer needs $5,000 to buy this horse. So he goes to, it must be like a credit union at their nuclear power plant. And the lady running it says, "Oh, I can't approve this. This is too much." And then Mr. Burns comes in. And Mr. Burns is the one loaning out money because he thinks it's a hobby. He like does it for fun because I guess he likes to see the employees squirm.
Right.
And he looks like he's having a good time doing this, but then he decides to loan Homer the money, but he knows that Homer doesn't understand the collateral or any of that, and that Homer's desperate. So he's like, "All right, you'll get your money, haha." And he's got like an ulterior motive. But you get the sense that he like now owns Homer's soul or something.
Oh, of course.
So like Mr. Burns got something that he won from that exchange. I don't know what, but I guess he walked away being like ahead of the game in some nefarious way. So it's not a good win, but he definitely won something. So that's why I went with him.
Well, I went with Grandpa Simpson for my winner because Grandpa rarely shows up in the episodes, and he hasn't really yet in the episodes we've discussed so far. But in this one, he's down on the floor and he's playing video games with Bart. He's not very good at playing video games with Bart, but he's playing video games with Bart. So I thought that he was a winner in this episode because usually when Grandpa Simpson shows up, he's a pass-off interaction. Like they're not really paying any attention to him. Sometimes they do, but it's not really a positive scene when he's in there. So I thought it was really great, and I think that he's a winner because he got to play basically asteroids with Bart on video games.
That's good. That's a good one. Yeah, he was He had a funny line too. He's like, "I got down on the floor for this," or something to that effect. And he was good for laughing at. So
It
good
was. It was
choice. Good
good.
choice. Do you want to do your loser?
Sure. So I went with the King Toots music store owner for my loser because Lisa sends Homer off at the beginning of the episode to go buy her a new reed for her saxophone for the talent show. And he goes, and the music store, King Toots, is right next to Moe's Tavern, and he only has 5 minutes. So he goes, makes the wise choice of going into the music store. Obviously, no. He goes into Moe's, and there's another man at the bar who ends up being the music store owner. And I chose him as the loser because he's off of work now. The store closed at 7.
Mm-hmm.
He's in Moe's. He's relaxing with a beer. He gets interrupted from his relaxation time and his beer by doing Moe a favor as payback to go open the store for Homer. So, I just decided he was the loser of the episode.
Yeah, and I also get the sense he was not a very happy person. He wasn't a very pleasant person, So
No.
he had to close early to go get a beer. Obviously, he had a bad day, so
Yep.
yeah, that filled a pretty good one.
I could have chosen other losers in this episode because I think there were a few. So what was your loser of the episode?
So I was really digging deep because I didn't want to go with Homer. That was too easy because the whole episode he's being knocked around and just having a hard time.
Same reason I didn't go with Marge, because Marge could have easily been a loser of the episode too.
Right. It was too obvious. So I really picked something extremely obscure, and the person I picked is the young man who had worked at the Quickie Mart before Homer got the job. Because at the very end of the episode, Homer's doing a bad job because he hasn't been sleeping, and Apu says, "The young man who you replaced is rolling over in his grave." So I decided, wow, there is some young man that's off camera that died probably at the Quickie Mart.
Yes.
He obviously didn't have a very good time, so I picked this unknown, unseen character as the loser of the episode simply because that struck me as one that needed to be mentioned. So.
That is the winner of the losers for this episode, sir. That is brilliant. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, that was good. I like this episode. For Lisa heavy episodes, it was great. And also Homer had a big amount of jokes at his expense.
Right.
And anytime you do that, Homer's very good foil for that stuff. So I like it.
If you enjoy watching us two goofballs and sometimes our special guests talk about The Simpsons, feel free to subscribe in the button below. It's going to be down here somewhere underneath my finger. And tune in to us every week. We tend to shoot these on Sundays and load them. So catch up, have fun, rewatch some of those favorite Simpsons episodes. And as always, feel free to comment on your favorite quotes, your favorite scenes, your winner and loser of the episode in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining us. And until the next time,
Jiminy
Jillikers.